Minister Trudeau.
Shalom Akim, Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahushua Ba'ashem, Rakwadash, is Brahman National DC camp with a brief lesson to edify the sincere Akim during the work of Yabashim Shah in sincerity and truth. Double honors and salutations to the elders and apostles of Great Stone real well. So you can see on the screen, man, we have the so-called Prime Minister of Canada, making mockery of a so-called activist, concerned about the plight of the guy that's living up there in Canada, because they have an issue of water pollution, and then folks have died, folks are having neurological problems, and you see his reaction. So I play the video, and I get some more video, another video to let you know, man, that Esau is not really concerned about the well-being of Israelites, man. The 12 tribes cut out of blood. Esau's not concerned about their safety and well-being. It's all about making that money, concerned about the riches of the earth.
People in grassy narrows are suffering from mercury poisoning. You committed to addressing this crisis.
Thank you for being here. Thank you very much for your donation tonight. I really.
Yeah, so see what it says there. Thank you very much for your donation tonight. Alright, so, I mean, ingesting mercury is no joke, man. That stuff is dangerous to your health. There's a reason why they tell folks to limit the amount of fish they eat, because these fish are polluted too, So that's why the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai gotta get us out of Babylon, man. Gotta deliver Jake out of captivity, wherever Jake is on the face of the earth, because it's not the life we want to be living, because it's terrible, it's destructive, man. It messes up your mind. So that's why the man of the Lord gotta hope and pray the end of Esau happens quickly, that the Lord shortens his rulership.
I really appreciate it.
And you see the folks, cheering him on. This is just Edomites, man, because Esau's government is for Edomites and Edomites alone. Everybody else is just getting crumbs, If Jake serves in Esau's government, it's not because he loves Jake. He's just using the Jake as a PR prop, to show the people that it has some gestures of goodwill. But the Most High sees through all that, because, end of the day, Jake is just pushing Esau's policy. Esau will not allow Jake to rise up and live independently of his system. That's one thing Esau never wants. He wants total control. He wants power.
And as we know, the Liberal Party is filled with different perspectives and different opinions, and we respect them all and our commitment.
If it was your family that's been waiting for 500 days, if your family was suffering from mercury poisoning.
And the issue of this mercury poisoning has been going on before I was born, because I was born in 1979, here in Babylon. But the guy that's up there, man, they've been having the same issues, man, before I was born. So it's terrible. That's the issue, we have to deal with. But hey, we're under the curses, man. Gotta breathe in the filthy air, eat the crazy food, the GMO and all that stuff. And you gotta pray the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai that he watches over you, man, so you don't lose your marbles.
If you were suffering from mercury poisoning, what would you do? If it was your family, would you accept it? Would you accept 500 days for 1%? Mr. Trudeau, for 500 days, you have not kept the commitment. If it was your own...
Yeah, so they didn't keep it, before I was born. That's thousands of days and thousands of days, for over 40 years. What makes sure is going to keep it, in 500 days and more to count, So Esau didn't fix it decades before, neither is he fixing it now. So there is no hope and trust in Esau's system, because the Lord Yahweh Shai does not expect us, it's not expecting us to follow along and trust in Esau's system, because that will be our dilemma. Alright? So I'll play another video just to get you more acquainted with this grassy narrow situation. So I'll play this one here. Yeah, and water, you need water to live, man. That's the reason why the Most High has scriptures talking about water. Just like when Jake was in the desert, Moses had to strike the rock because Jake, the nation of Israel was complaining that they were thirsty, and Moses got jacked up because he lost his temper. All right, and the Most High made him pay for that.
My name is Raphael Fobister.
Hello, my name is Shears Bruce.
Darren Fobister.
Judy De Silva.
I am from Grassy Narrows.
I'm poisoned by mercury, and I am a mother of 5.
We have stomach problems if we try to drink the water.
It's already killing us slowly.
It's a struggle every day to not have clean drinking water.
If we run out, then we have to wait until further deliveries come in.
It's been years. Why hasn't anything happened?
I'm Chief Simon Fobister, Surgeon Clan, Grassy Narrows, and we have 800 members that don't have access to safe drinking water.
On the issue with the lead pipes, they have lead leaching into water, and then folks have to test it. They have to file reports. Like the issue in Flint, Michigan. Who knows what kind of pollutants were in the drinking water they had up there. Who knew about it and what they didn't do. So it just lets you know, man, Esau society is not about the welfare of the people. People are angry, the people are mad. That's why you have all these people acting like nut jobs. They're possessed because their mind is not right. They're eating the wrong kinds of food, and then that messes them up. Then their spirit is jacked up because they're not close to the Lord Shai. And this is for the nation of Israel. All right.
To safe drinking water.
This is our Grassy Narrows First Nations standpipe. This is the water that gives pressure and delivers water to the community members. The water in there is not safe.
People are really resilient. They're very strong people. Like this thing, 2002 and 2016, the logging trucks still have not driven through here. So it shows our people how they are so strong in what they believe in. The mercury issue started in 1975 when we discovered the fish were dying. Our people are a river people. Historically, they lived from the water. When we found out the mercury was in the water, it had a really devastating effect in our community, economically, socially, and all that. It's like a genocide of our people.
And the Messiah has laws of things like this, man. That you should not pollute the land that you dwell in. Even taking the shit, there's certain things you need to do.
A lot of our people have died from the mercury poisoning, and still today they are.
ALS was on the rise. Alzheimer's, MS, Parkinson's, and cancers are really prevalent today as a result of the water situation.
And these are the curses Jake has to deal with, alright? So I'll pull up another video. Alright, so just bear with me, Akim. Alright.
This was a story about an Indigenous community in northwestern Ontario that for decades has been affected by mercury poisoning from industry. Lots of media back in the 1970s had reported on how this old paper mill had just dumped mercury right into the Wabigoon River.
So paper mill right there. So Isso's development, his industrial society is destroying, causing so much destruction upon the face of the earth. All right.
And that flowed downstream towards Grassy Narrows and a neighboring Indigenous community. And that mercury poisoned the fish, which worked its way up the food chain and sickened the people.
Over the years, government official after government official has said, essentially, there's nothing to see here, folks. That the river will eventually clean up itself, and the people are doing okay now. But all that time, the people of Grassy Narrows have been telling a different story. Many generations of people in the community, including the younger generations, have telltale signs of mercury poisoning. So their hands shake, or they have problems feeling the tips of their fingers. They have memory problems. Children have learning disabilities. And so the people of Grassy Narrows have repeatedly said the river that is essentially their lifeblood is still contaminated with mercury.
My name is David Bruiser, and I am a reporter and editor on the investigations team at the Toronto Star. Over a 2-year period, I worked on this story about the mercury poisoning of Grassy Narrows First Nation with my colleague Jamie Poisson.
We came to Grassy Narrows in 2016 by way of a tip. A man named Kas Glowacki had emailed the leaders of Grassy Narrows, and he had told them that he was part of a crew that haphazardly dumped a bunch of drums filled with salt and mercury in a pit behind an old mill upstairs.
Yeah, so Kas Glowacki got a guilty conscience, man, because what it did was wrong, got paid. So, could tell, man, it says, my name is Kas Glowacki, and I worked at a Dryden paper mill. We filled, I would say, approximately 50 plus drums of the salt and mercury. There was a large pit dug behind the mill.
Dream from their community. He said that he was writing them now because he was guilt-ridden, and all these years later he wanted to make it right. I wasn't sure what to think when we got the email. Of course, it could be fake, or it could be a genuine email written by someone who did not remember what happened all those years ago. But he wasn't responding to the emails that we were sending him, and so my colleague David Bruiser and I set out to find Mr. Glowacki.
It was really important to us to find Kas Glowacki and not just rely on this email he had written, because it would give us an opportunity to meet him in person, lay eyes on him, test his story, ask him questions, get our own sense of his credibility, and see whether or not his story was consistent and that what he told us was similar to the details in the email. So finding Kas Glowacki was not that easy, but it came down to what we call in this business shoe leather reporting. We tried online listings, phone books, whatever we had at our disposal to cold call any Glowacki we could across the country.
We eventually tracked him down in Alberta, but we didn't know exactly where he was. We traced him to one small town near Edmonton.
We went to grocery stores, pharmacies, co-ops, convinced people to look in their computer systems to see if a Glowacki was a recent client, chasing his ghost across the province of Alberta, going town to town to town.
We talked to his former neighbors, we talked to bar owners and ice cream truck drivers, and eventually we were able to track Mr. Glowacki down just a little bit outside of Calgary.
We ended up in Medicine Hat the next day, to get him talking to us and, importantly, to get him on camera. And the reason why that's important is if someone agrees to have their picture taken in a case like this, it's another step that he's taking, that he's getting behind the words that he's telling us and he's owning them.
The story Mr. Glowacki told us is that a few decades ago, he was part of a small crew who were tasked with filling barrels full of salt and mercury. And then he said that they lined this pit with plastic and rolled the drums into the pit and lightly covered it up with soil. And so he was concerned that maybe what he had done all those years ago could have been the source of the ongoing mercury contamination, which was poisoning the fish in the river and inevitably poisoning the people of Grassy Narrows.
The story about Kaz Glowacki and this alleged mercury dump kicked off 2 years of reporting and 30-plus stories, and it allowed us to get closer to solving a riddle that has been afflicting the people of Grassy Narrows for quite some time.
Yeah, so that's just one piece of the puzzle. So I get the precepts, all right? Yeah, it's lucky I can. So this is going to be from Proverbs. Chapter 21, verse 13. And it says, Whoso stoppeth his ear at the cry of the poor, he also shall cry himself, but shall not be heard. Alright? So these elites, they made so much money from the destruction of the environment and refuse to do the right thing according to the words of Yahweh Shimei Ashai to make the earth whole again. The Most High is going to hold them accountable. And when they're being judged, they will have no one to empathize or sympathize with them, right? Because, hey, it's the judgment of the Lord, right? So it's beautiful, man, to know that the Lord has a just judgment, a righteous judgment for the folks that defile the earth.
A highlight for me and my colleague Jamie is we also did a story about mercury in the soil, and that was an adventure.
We decided to travel to Dryden, Ontario, which is the site of where the old mill is, which is just upstream from Grassy Narrow, to test the soil the container and flew them back to Toronto.
And then we took those Ziploc bags full of soil samples to a lab in London, Ontario. The results came back from the lab tests, and they basically showed that in some of the holes where we dug the soil from, the mercury levels were 80 times what they ought to have been in that part of Ontario.
So you can see when you put the metal detector in the hole, the reading increases.
While we were doing all these stories, it wasn't clear that the government knew that there was ongoing mercury contamination. And it was only later in our reporting that we found out that, in fact, in 1990, the government was made aware.
So 1990. All right, so that's what? Phew. That's about 30 years, over 30 years ago. All right. Yeah, about 30 years ago. Yeah, so, yep, about 30 years ago, man. It's no joke, man. It's no joke. So I got another precept. Yeah, it's just from the book of Lamentation. All right, chapter 4, verse 17. All right, because there's nothing, this protest is going to yield, man, asking Esau to help. That's not what the Lord, made Esau to do, man. All right, Esau's not going to help Jake out of poverty or make Jake whole. All right, so Lamentation chapter 4, verse 17. As for us, our eyes as yet filled for our vain help. In our watching, we have watched for a nation that could not save us. All right, so all the legislation that Jake is always crying and yelling for, it's not going to get any improvements done. Because the earth is beyond repair right now, man. Because Esau doesn't take the health, the well-being of the earth. It doesn't take it seriously, His technologies, his economy, everything about Esau's society always lead to destruction and pollution, right? So the Lord will have to fix it by taking Edom out of power, out of rulership. So it's just simple. Just keeps you in keeps your mind aware of what's going on, man. All the problems that you have to inherit from previous generations and the ones that are being created now. So it becomes a burden, all right? But nonetheless, you got to hope in the Lord that Shema Shai that you're able to stay spiritual, and abide in His word unto the end. All right. So this is Job chapter 20, verse 8. He says, "He shall fly away as a dream, and shall not be found. Yea, he shall be chased away as a vision of the night." So these Edomites, man, they rulership the whole nation. The Lord thereby Shema shall have to get rid of them, because they're no longer useful. They've accomplished what they need to accomplish. You just need to have, the World War III and the RFID chip, and that's about it. And then the angels of the Lord, we just have to have a final battle, and Esau's in captivity, and they eradicated from all the face of the earth, and that's spiritual, all right? Verse 9, Job chapter 20, verse 9, "The eye also which saw him shall see him no more, neither shall his place any more behold him." So Esau will have no more inheritance upon the face of the earth, because he's going to be discontinued from his heritage, all right? "His children shall seek to please the poor, and his hands shall restore their goods." So how's Esau going to restore the goods? All is stolen, all that is stolen, you have to restore it. All the gold that is hiding, the treasures, you have to bring them up from where he stashed them. And then he still has to serve time, in slavery. Then verse 11 says, "His bones are full of the sin of his youth, which shall lie down with him in the dust." All right, so hey, he's going down, man. All that glory is going down with them. "Though wickedness be sweet in his mouth, though he hide it under his tongue, though he spare it and forsake it not, but keep it still within his mouth." All right, so that's simple. All right, so it's important I can know that the Lord Shema Shai is a just power, and is going to avenge his people. And that's one thing the elites of these Edomites, they know. They know that the Lord Shema Shai is on his way to hold them accountable for what they've done to his people, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and also for blasphemy of his name, and for destroying the earth, making the foundation of the earth to be out of course. All right, so this is Isaiah chapter 24, verse 15. "Wherefore glorify ye the Lord Yahweh by Hashem Shai." All right, in it's like even the name of the Lord, Hashem Shai by Hashem Hakadash, the power of Israel and the isles of the sea. All right, so that's important. You know what? Let me do the quick search right now. Yeah, just bear with me, I can. Alright, so this is Psalms chapter 82, verse 5. It says, "They know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness, all the foundations of the earth are out of course." Alright, so that's important to know that the world is a mess. Alright, Psalms chapter 82, verse 5. The world is a mess. Alright, and then you look at one last precept here. This is Revelation chapter 11, verse 18. And it says, "And the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants the prophets, and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. Alright? So, it's polluting the water system is terrible. It's not just the fishes that are dying, but wildlife. Wildlife, the vegetation, people will have to suffer the consequences of using this water for their daily use. Right? So it's important like you gotta be careful of what you ingest. You gotta pray the Lord about Shema Shai. It keeps you healthy. Do your best, to live a sanitary life, man, because it's a polluted society. Don't overindulge. Alright, just pray that the Lord about Shema Shai guides you and keeps your mind sharp, man, because you don't want to fall victim to this society, to the trickery, the Esau's enterprise. So I'll just say, Kal Halal Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua Ba'ashem Kwakadash. Double honors and salutations to the elders and apostles of Great Stone Rule well. I came fight the good fight of faith, man. Just like the waters of this world is polluted, be careful about the doctrines, of this world, man. Because the doctrines of this world is polluted. So that's why it's important to stick with the words of Yahweh Shema Shai, because his waters are pure. You don't want that tainted water from all these so-called false prophets, these fake religions, right? So just pray the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai keeps your mind sharp and gets rid of all the leaven that's hindering you from doing his work. Shalom.